What's going on, everyone? We have an off day here in between yesterday's loss to the Atlanta Hawks and tomorrow's game against the Orlando Magic, so let's just talk about this a little bit more in depth. Of course, after the game, you never want to hear the words head-scratching, no energy, and things like that from the team and Coach Brett Brown. You don't want to hear that this late into the season, and I'm not here to try and give them an out. I'm not trying to sit here and say that this is okay and, as fans, we allow this. No, I understand that we don't. But we have to be realists when looking at this situation. This happens. Yesterday, the Mavericks beat Golden State. What was the score? 126-91. Are you going to fire Steve Kerr? The Celtics blew an 18-point lead against the Charlotte Hornets, and I know they didn't have all their players, but are they going to fire Brad Stevens? It's crazy that I'm hearing the words fire Brett Brown again already after the past success we've had on that win streak. One loss to the Atlanta Hawks is, well, he doesn't do this right and this doesn't happen here. And relax. Just relax. I'm not okay with this loss, but it just happens. It's a thing. This is how the league works. Sometimes you lose games you're supposed to win. Of course, I'm not thrilled about things like Jimmy Butler with the shot clock unplugged and making a mistake like that, and hearing Brett Brown talk about how it's head-scratching. You don't like to see it, not this late into the season, especially with a team that is ready to make a run at this thing. You don't want to hear it. But it's reality. It happens. Let's just move on to Orlando tomorrow. There's no reason to dwell on it, sit here and make it seem like it's going to be literally the most concerning thing in the world moving forward because we fell to Atlanta. That's not the truth. I think this fan base just doesn't realize how to handle the success of the Sixers. I don't think we are used to seeing basketball this successful to the point where you drop a random game after so many emotional victories and the Boston and Milwaukee and a win streak, and we fall to a lesser opponent. It's unbelievable. I just don't think we know how to control it emotionally and how to handle this thing. I'm the most critical fan I feel like that's out there. I'm always criticizing this team. I'm always looking at little things. Even on a win, I take a look at something else and say, well, that should have been better. I always do that. But let's just be honest with ourselves. We lost. It's disappointing. There were things that you don't really want to see or hear in that basketball game, but it's not the end of the universe. This team will use this, for example, and move forward with it. Put it behind you, learn from that experience, and we will move it forward. Listen, it's better to happen now, and they can look back during this backstretch of the regular season and take a look, and even in the playoffs, and say, hey, remember that game against the Atlanta Hawks down the stretch and what we did? Well, maybe we'll do this differently, or let's make sure this doesn't happen again. And I'm just trying to take a positive out of this and say we will just learn from the experience and move the hell on. This isn't the difference maker on what's going to happen in the playoffs. Because this happened, we're not just going to fall apart insanely and never be able to make anything happen again. So it is what it is, and let's be real. Don't you think now the players are sitting there saying, and I know it's not right, but this is reality. Once again, it's not right, but it's reality. Don't you think they're ready for the playoffs? Don't you think they're sitting here saying, okay, we got the Hawks, we got the Magic, we got the Nets, we got the Mavericks. Let's just go get ready for the playoffs. And that's their mentality. Now, they're going to have to find a way to maybe not have that happen, and they can use this as a wake-up call, but they're ready for the playoffs at this point, and it's got to be a grind here, knowing that you're playing weaker opponents and knowing that you have big things in store this spring, but they're going to have to find a way to make sure they play better than they did yesterday. But let's not sit here and just say it's all over. I can't believe it. How did this happen? How did Jimmy Butler do this? And you know what? Let's just breathe, relax, and say, yes, we lost to a bad team. Do you think that the Golden State Warriors, although this is probably their most fragile year that they've had, do you think their fans are saying after a Mavericks loss, okay, we suck, mail it in, this is unbelievable? It happens. Now, it's happened more to this Golden State Warriors team this year than years in the past, and I understand that, but it's ridiculous to think that games like this aren't going to happen. It's going to happen. It's frustrating. But B, be a realistic human being on the situation. Fire Brett Brown? Really? We're going to fire Brett Brown after yesterday's loss. But all those other games, he did a tremendous job. You throw in a damn stinker. I'm normally not the one to be this settle on it. I'm normally not the one that's this mellow on what's occurring when a game of this happens. But come on. You have to be a human being and realize the difference in the emotion over the last however many games and then go out and play the Atlanta Hawks. It's called just being a human being, and that's sadly what happened. I'm not saying it's all right for this to occur, but it did. So whatever. Let's just focus on the Orlando Magic. Let's see how they respond. How about that? Let's see how this Sixers team plays on Monday night. Let's see what Ben Simmons, Embiid, Jimmy Butler, Tobias. Let's see what they do on Monday night in Orlando. What if they come out and demolish them, rip them apart, destroy them, make a statement? What if they do that? Let's not pretend like the sky is falling. Let's not pretend that this team can't do anything now because Trae Young hit a nice floater to win the game. You take a look at the defensive scheme and everyone's complaining about how many points Trae Young drops and guards in general. And yeah, it's a problem. Our guards aren't the best at defending. People screaming, J.J. Redick, put him on the bench. What are you going to do in the starting lineup? It doesn't work. That's not how it works. And plus, just because he spreads the floor so much offensively, we need him out there. J.J. Redick going to the bench this season is not the answer, so that can't happen. Now, you can throw out analytics and say, well, our defensive rating is better than most teams, and just because you allow 30-plus to guards, that doesn't mean you're a terrible defensive team. That game in general, you gotta realize the game and how it plays out. The score was 74-68 maybe at halftime. Both teams weren't playing defense, and that's how it is in the NBA sometimes until people clamp down in the fourth. I'm not saying that that's okay once again, but each game is different. Not every game is perfect where there's going to be 100% defense, and like that's just how it is. So the game flow of that speed was no defense on both sides, and that was just it. Now we have to be better, but that's how that game played out. It's frustrating to hear the overreaction side to it. It's going to be okay. The team needs to just mentally clock back in here for this late stretch before the playoffs. They need to find a way to do it. And realistically, we need to make yesterday's game against the Hawks the example for them to find that, punch-in sheet. They got to punch back in and make sure they do it. It's not the best news in the world to hear your head coach say it's head-scratching about Jimmy Butler's last-second shot clock violation and what they were trying to do with James Ennis. It's not great to hear that. It's not great to hear teammates in the locker room talk about energy and passion to get up for a game. But it's what happened. And there's plenty of talent on this team and with the head coach to still make a damn run at this thing. Let's see how they respond against the Orlando Magic. I expect a very powerful W. I expect the team to come out ready to perform and to be on their top game, and that's fine. If they respond that way, then okay. Then they build off what happened against Atlanta, and they build off of it against Orlando. Let's see how it occurs. Let's see what ends up happening in Orlando. Just move forward. Move forward. To criticize it to the extreme, there's no positive out of that. It's just one game where we weren't ready to play. We thought we would walk into that building and rip and destroy the Atlanta Hawks. And they're a team that's playing for some pride and have some young talent, and they showed us up, and that's what happened. That's the reality of it. Who cares? Time to move on. It is what it is. We're in a great position. It sucks because that third seed, the pull away was there. It didn't happen. So bigot. We're not in the worst place to be in the world. Let's get this thing moving on the right track. I have faith. I have faith that this team is going to be ready to perform by the playoffs. It's just the mental aspect of it. It really is. Try being a top elite team in this league and then have to roll through the last however many games against lesser opponents, knowing what's in store in the future, knowing that we have a legitimate shot at making a run at this thing. It's not an easy mental thing to do. They have to make it happen and make the switch go, but it's not easy to do. I'd rather be in this position than positions we've been in the past throughout the last 5 years, wouldn't you say? Just relax. The moral of the story is just relax, okay? We're gonna be all right. It's disappointing. We're gonna be okay. Time to look out for this squad against Orlando on Monday. And I'm expecting a nice, solid W. A team to be ready. A team to be clocked in. And I think it'll be that way. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'll see you next time.